Well, I guess Bungie saw me trying to play the Outriders demo for like 18 minutes. And then they were like, hey, Datto, what are you doing, bud? It's still Destiny time. What are you doing? State of the game. Blam. Info bomb. Right as I'm trying to play. Talking about the next couple of seasons. Some details on the Witch Queen. Going into a wide range of topics. Sunsetting. Trials. Leveling. Subclasses. Let's not waste any more time. This is probably going to be a long video. We got the info first, and then second half is going to be my thoughts. Timestamp, and then here's the same timestamp just over here. I don't have any interesting footage for this, so you can either just look at my face, or you can leave this tab up in the background, or you just load yourself into a battleground, because that's what I would have used for footage if I was going to do that. I am reading from a script, probably just doing one take. That's already a lie. This is definitely not the fifth one. So, yeah, sorry about the lack of eye contact. The Witch Queen will not be launching in 2021. It will be coming in early 2022. This is for a few reasons. The Witch Queen will, quote, light the fire on a strong interconnected narrative across Lightfall, which is the following expansion, and beyond. Unlike anything we've attempted before, with characters, arcs, heroes, and villains that persist over multiple future releases. The conclusion of these releases will also conclude the Light and Darkness saga, the conflict we first introduced with the launch of Destiny many years ago. End quote. As a result of that, Bungie needs a little bit more time. Bungie also wants to upgrade their approach to keeping Destiny's weapon and armor game feeling fresh, refining our vision for PvP, implementing transmog, adding crossplay, all that stuff that we're going to talk about right here. Final reason is COVID kind of messed up a lot of stuff, and they want to make sure that they had the time that they needed in order to get things done, even if they have been somewhat efficient working from home. Also important to know is that Bungie will be adding an additional unannounced chapter after the Lightfall expansion to fully complete their first saga of Destiny. Sunsetting is being removed, mostly. All weapons and armor that can currently be infused to max power will continue to be able to reach max power permanently. Starting in Season 14, we won't be capping the infusion. Is that a quote? That's a quote. Quote, starting in Season 14, we won't be capping the infusion on any weapons or armor that have not already reached the cap as of the start of Season 13. End quote. While Bungie still very much believes that Destiny needs a method to shift their meta over time, they're taking this year to research and validate a plan that, quote, creates a fresh and balanceable ecosystem for our most aspirational content, one that doesn't make our rewards feel like they have an expiration date, end quote. The reason for the removal of sunsetting is because it made legacy content feel shallow and made rewards feel like they had an expiration date. Their reasoning. That being said, Bungie needs to consider more things when it comes to game balance now, since things are not going to be sunset. So expect to see tuning to outliers like Fellwinters and Warmind cells. You probably wanted to hear Fellwinters a little bit more than Warmind cells. Next is the power cap. The power cap will now only be going up by 10 per season instead of 50, although it seems like we'll be going up 50 in major expansions. So if you hit the cap in a season, when the next season starts, you'll be right at the pinnacle starting line. PvP. Starting in Season 15, 3-peaking, aka going into a third-person perspective via emoting or using a sword with no ammo, will be addressed. In Trials and Competitive, emotes will be disabled, and players will be unable to pull out any third-person weapon that has no ammo. Stasis is getting some tuning. Across this and next season, Bungie will be making the following changes. Behemoth Titan. Decreased super damage reduction, increased super energy cost when doing light attacks, removing the freeze AoE on cast, and reduce the traveling efficacy of Shiver Strike when slowed. Revenant Hunter. Decrease Withering Blade damage and tracking, decrease slow stacks applied to targets, and remove Shatter Dive damage reduction. Shadebinder Warlock. Fix bugs where Ice Flare bolts wouldn't track targets immediately on creation, and fix bug where Shadebinder super projectiles were not tracking until a certain distance traveled. And then for everyone, decrease Crystal Shatter damage. In Season 15, Bungie is looking at universal adjustments to Stasis. I was about to say ornaments, shut up. Universal adjustments to Stasis by increasing damage reduction when frozen to give more survivability to the victim. Interesting. Following the Stasis tuning in Season 15, Bungie will focus on light subclasses by buffing underutilized branches. The goal here is to keep Stasis good in PvE and to bring it down a bit in PvP, more in line with light-based abilities. Also in Season 15, quote, we will be looking to adjust the overall ability usage rates to make sure guns and gunplay are always keys to success in Crucible. End quote. Love it. What about another big problem? Cheaters, security. Bungie is doubling the size of the security team. They're sending out surveys to people to better understand experiences with cheating, and they're starting aggressive legal action against cheat developers, although we've already seen some evidence of that. Bungie obviously doesn't want to talk about major specifics as to not give cheaters a heads up into what they're doing, which is, understandable. Trials, also getting an overhaul. The current structure of trials, wiping a card after one loss, is skewing matchmaking to make games harder at the beginning of cards more often. Bungie wants to build a reward structure to incentivize people to actually run their cards even if they get a loss. They want to improve the matchmaking pool by getting more people involved and defining skill tiers better. They also want to take a look at ways for solo players to get into trials regularly. After trials, Iron Banner is going to be targeted for a similar in scope refresh. Next is Vault of Glass and raid content. Vault of Glass will be getting a contest mode for the first 24 hours and will be having a world first race. Not only will you have to beat the raid, you'll also need to complete a curated list of triumphs in order to get world first. Bungie wants Destiny Content Vault content, or at least in this example, Vault of Glass, to feel like the raid that you remember while updating them to meet new Destiny 2 difficulty and raid standards. Bungie is also looking to add a master version to Vault of Glass before the end of the year. They'd like all future raid and dungeon content to offer master difficulty versions as well, where players can earn adept raid gear and dungeon gear. Bungie won't be launching Master VOG in Season 14, but they do want to develop a way to allow themselves to ship a normal and Master mode closer together in future releases. Next, Transmog. Transmog is going to be called Armor Synthesis, and it'll be done by Ada 1 starting in Season 14. Every season, Ada will offer bounties to complete, which reward materials needed to power up Ada's Loom, which will turn any armor piece in your collections into a permanent universal ornament. You will also be able to buy these materials for silver. There will be a new menu where you can manage and shade all of your gear. Shaders are being changed to permanent unlocks. No more stacks of shaders in your inventory. In Season 14, Bungie is going to give people a starting supply of this material after you complete the introductory story quest, because they know how much people have been, wanting to transmog or synthesize their gear. Let's talk future. Crossplay. Coming in Season 15, you can play with whoever you want, any platform. Console and PC players will not be matched against each other in the Crucible unless you, as a console player, join a PC player's lobby and then they throw you into PvP. Ikora Rey, where the hell has she been? Well, she's coming back in Season 14 and has a pivotal role in the Witch Queen. In Season 15, the first round of legendary Stasis energy and power weapons will come to the game. In Season 14, Phase 2 of the Gilded Title system will roll out, where a title will display how many times it has been gilded in the past, called that one. That's everything. Thoughts time. Whew. Well. It's a lot to take in. Let's start with the Witch Queen. Very excited to hear about the connected narrative. Ever since day one of Destiny, I've always wondered where this is all going. Where are we going? And over the past few seasons, Bungie has shown good strides in developing a better story experience. Season 13 has been great in regards to that thus far. We know from a recent press release that Bungie is really diving in with Destiny. New commitments to a larger studio space, hiring new executives to their board of directors, expanding the Destiny universe to new media, opening an international office sometime in 2022, I think. They're here for the long haul. Lightfall does not even seem remotely close to the end, especially since they just said they have another thing after Lightfall to do before they close out this first saga. It leaves me hopeful for the future. Although, how many times have I said that before? A million times I've said I'm hopeful for the future. Millions of times. But if the future is anything like how Season 13 has been going so far, I think we got a good shot at this, you know? Bungie's really building up the Witch Queen in this state of the game. So for their sakes, I hope they nail it. If it's what I'm imagining it could be, then maybe we start to see Bungie finally reach those levels that we've always believed that they could. Because they still can. Sunsetting. Getting removed. Mostly. I'll be honest. Very surprised by this move. I thought sunsetting was pretty baked into the game at this point, especially with Beyond Light and all the stuff that they had to take out of the game and any restructuring they needed to do. And I thought to remove it would be way more effort than I anticipated. Maybe it was. Maybe they've been working on this the whole time in the background and we just don't know. You know, I guess I was wrong there. While I agreed with the concept of sunsetting and what it could potentially lead to, the implementation was just not good, especially when it came to armor. That was just never good at all with how armor is right now. I think the way they handled going back to no sunsetting was good because you know that if they said everything's coming back, that people who deleted items were going to rage. So I think this is the best way that they could have handled it. And now we also don't need to worry about Warmind cells getting sunset, even though I do think that Bungie was potentially going to do something to save Warmind cell mods. That being said, I do wonder how they end up handling nerfing weapons going into the future. Looking at you, Fellwinter's Lie, if anything changes at all. And I'm wondering how they handle perk design and all that. Although none of the new perks that we've gotten so far since Beyond Light have been egregious enough to say this should not be in the game or this needs to be nerfed. And I feel like that's part of what sunsetting was about, being able to rotate out super strong stuff after a year. It's also going to lead to a lot more happy players in the game, and the game can always use happy players playing the game. I've definitely moved more towards a neutral stance over the months on sunsetting. You know, if it sticks around, okay. I know you're outside the door. If it sticks around, okay. If it doesn't, also okay. I'm sure some people are going to say that this never should have happened in the first place, and that's totally fair. But I think undoing it is better in the eyes of most than just sticking with it if it wasn't working the way that Bungie wanted it to work. Leveling changes. We're going back to 10 levels instead of 50 levels. This doesn't really solve the leveling problem. This doesn't solve the leveling feeling pointless problem in the game right now. It just shortens the grind to get back to the power that we were at before the season started. Now, don't get me wrong. I'll take anything I can get. But Bungie needs to work on the leveling experience, feeling like it actually matters, instead of just make number go up because we said number up. This is a Band-Aid fix at the moment. There was a time that I advocated for a system to just make a number go up because we had nothing. But that was with an expectation that it would be expanded upon. Changing leveling to actually feel like it matters is a massive undertaking, and part of the reason it's such a challenge, in my opinion anyway, is because people can level up doing whatever they want in the game, as opposed to more difficult activities providing higher level gear. Maybe we'll touch on this in another video if I decide I want to take on the beast that is the leveling problem, but it's a beast for a reason. Leveling is also one of those things that feels like a massive problem, but there are even more pressing issues, so it might just not get the attention that it needs to kind of fulfill people. Or maybe just Bungie doesn't even think that leveling is that much of a concern. I don't know. They didn't really go into it too much in the, in this section. The only thing they said was, we believe this change will make it even easier to pick up and enjoy Destiny each season while still allowing us to have a deep RPG power pursuit when we launch the Witch Queen. I mean, I guess, yeah, but I think people want to hear a little bit more. Renewed PvP focus. Oh, yeah. Definitely heard that one before. I don't think they said renewed PvP focus, but that's using my words. But I hate being a straight up Stasis ruined PvP kind of guy, but I am just not having a good time in the Crucible lately. I'm just not. Oh, 3-peaking, getting the changes it needs in higher end PvP is a great thing. I'm guessing the reason that it's going to take as long as it is, which is Season 15, is because being able to use emotes and power weapons is probably so ubiquitous in the game that unplugging their functionality in very specific areas of the game probably means, a bit of engineering work there. It's probably just not, just unplug that one and unplug that one, and then we're good. Obviously, if they could do this sooner, I think they would. I never liked 3-peaking, aka going into third person to gain a vision advantage. Sure, everybody could do it, but I think it goes against the spirit of the game and just generally think, it's obnoxious. Stasis getting some nerfs, that's good. Part of why I'm not in love with PvP right now is definitely Stasis, but it's also that movement capabilities are at the highest they've ever been, and I've just never been a fan of that in the game. People always ask me, Datto, you want Twilight Garrison back in Destiny? No, I don't. Titans sliding all over the place with Stasis. Hunters jump spamming, thinking they're better than everyone else because they can jump high. You're not better than everybody else because you jump high. Warlocks dashing around, and Fellwinter's being what it is certainly isn't helping. Also, again, being slowed or frozen is straight up not fun. It's not enjoyable on the receiving end. There's nothing fun about it. Smoke bombs were never fun to deal with, but somehow being slowed by Stasis feels even worse, even if the end result is kind of the same. I don't know if that's just me, but that's just how it feels. I am wondering if anything's going to happen to Duskfield grenades as well. I don't know. Lots of people ask me about why Bungie just doesn't bring up light subclasses to stasis levels. And here's my analogy for that. If stasis is a problem, and you bring things up to stasis levels, well, you now have more problems. You know, like, here's problem, and now we just made more problems. They might be equal, but we're still in problem territory. If light subclasses are not considered problems, even if, you know, a couple of them are still very strong, if you bring stasis down to their level, well, now we're starting to move out of problem territory. I'm glad that Bungie is going to be addressing underused light subclasses as well, although I imagine that is a much bigger undertaking than I think people are going to give credit for. I'm liking what I'm seeing about trying to make Trials cards worth something with a loss on the card. Trials has always felt like flawless or bust, and that can lead to a very stressful environment for a lot of players. It's clear something needs to be done about Trials in general. Population, loot, almost everything needs refinement. Opportunities for solo players, though. Little curious about that one. Trials to me has always been about communication with teammates. It's the highest stakes, highest end PvP. It's a deliberate thing where you're finding people to go play and trying to make it as far as you can. I'm curious to see what opportunities Bungie is thinking of for solo players besides maybe a freelance playlist or something. At that point, you're just at the mercy of your teammates and your opponents. But if it's supposed to be just a taste of Trials to like, yeah, you like it? You want to go find some teammates? Then I guess that's okay. But pitting randomly matched people against teams seems like a terrible idea, so I don't think that's going to happen. Iron Banner getting a refresher after that is also desperately needed. I don't care about Iron Banner either. Vault of Glass World First. Didn't see that one coming. The reason I'm not really vibing a World First race for VOG, besides the fact that Math Class got our only World First from the original VOG, is because we've played this before. I don't care how much you want to update it for Destiny 2 and all that, or throw contest mode on it. We already know the raid. If the raid is changing so much that it's unrecognizable from D1, then okay, but I think people would be upset about that. Conceptually, I like the idea of needing to do some triumphs alongside the World First run, and I like that contest mode is gonna be a thing for the first 24 hours, but it just kind of rubs me the wrong way that VOG is gonna have a second World First race. Part of the World First experience to me is figuring out mechanics on top of combat mastery. I'm sure there's going to be some things to figure out, but I'm skeptical. I'm skeptical at this whole experience. We'll see. Maybe it turns out for the best. Master raids and dungeons, on the other hand, I'm all about that. I don't anticipate master raids and dungeons to have new mechanics, even though that's what I think the ultimate goal should be, to have that sort of like prestige or hard mode back. But this is a good start. Universal ornaments, aka transmog, aka armor synthesis. I know people were very worried about having to use silver in order to interact with synthesis. Right now, it is an optional thing should you want to do more. But I'm not exactly in love with that in the first place. What I will say is that this currency, these synthesis materials, they gotta be somewhat plentiful. They just gotta. They cannot be super limited. People have been waiting too long for this, and this is something that, if introduced, should be easily accessible. I don't want to feel like I need to spend silver on this, and the fact that we can spend silver on this leads me to believe that this is going to be limited to a negative degree. I get the desire to keep it limited. You want people to spend money. Totally get it. But the people who play every day, your regulars, your hardcores, for them, this needs to be very accessible, or you're going to have some very pissed off fashionistas. You probably do right now that I'm thinking about it. You probably have some very pissed off people by even mentioning silver in the same universe as synthesis, transmog. Tread lightly. Shaders getting their own treatment. That's very, very good. Last section, the future. Crossplay in Season 15. Great. Love it. Being careful about matching console versus PC gamers on PC. Wise move, in my opinion. Good stuff. Ikora being a part of the game again. Love it. Thank you. Missed Ikora. Stasis, energy, and power weapons. We'll see what's up with that. Gilded titles. Got the one thing I asked for, which is to see how many times I've gilded a title. Thank you very much. I thought that was way too obvious to not include at some point. And yet again, here we are. We're in hopeful territory. I find myself hopeful about the future of Destiny. How many times have I said that before? Beyond Light and Season 12 didn't bring my hope meters up a ton. Well, in a couple of spots they did. You know, story, that kind of stuff. Season 13 is doing a pretty good job so far, bringing the meters up. This update absolutely did as well. But again, delivery is the only thing that matters. But man, do I just want to be excited. I'm going to get a little excited. Okay. That's enough. Just deliver the goods, Bungie. Deliver the goods. We're waiting. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.